What's up guys, it's Roger and welcome back to the channel. And today we are playing some more Trials of Osiris. This weekend we have the Meltdown as the map, which of course we haven't had as a Trials map either ever or in a very long time because it was out of the map rotation. They brought it back in week one. Here we go, we have Meltdown. Honestly, it's been pretty fun. Now besides that, we have an entire new season, so the meta, has it changed? We'll get into that in the gameplay breakdown, but for today, let's talk about what we need to talk about, which is the Astrocyte burst buff. So if you don't know me, my name is Roger. I am a Blink Master, and I love using Blink Warlock and Blink Hunter in PvP. It's really the only things I use is those two, and I just love Blink. I have so many videos talking about and teaching you how to use your Blink, so if you're interested, make sure you go to the end screen of this video. You can watch my full Blink Journey playlist, which has every video you would need to become a Blink Master for yourself. Now let's get into this Astrocyte Burst buff a little bit, and then talk about the rest of the build. So here's the thing with Astrocyte Burst. It used to have all of this, right? It helps you blink further, more frequently, so you didn't have as much of cooldowns, and you also had a third blink with your Astrocyte Burst on. You also had a 100 handling applied to whatever weapon you're pulling out after you exit a blink. And on top of that, the best part in my opinion is that your radar actually remains up when you go through a blink, so you can track your enemies with that radar as you're blinking through. But besides that, it also gives you plus 30 to your airborne effectiveness stat. Now, it doesn't actually show the new part to this exotic because I guess typing 2 new sentences was too much for Bungie to handle, but what happens now is it actually does make enemies around you volatile when you blink, which is interesting. Besides that, it also makes it to where the dark blink that you have on your Nova Warp doesn't take any energy, which is a good buff there as well. Now, we'll talk about my full opinions on this buff when we get into the gameplay breakdown, but just for now, know that those are the new things that came to our Astrocyte verse. The rest of the build is pretty simple, usual stuff. I have on a strand weapon, so I have on strand targeting and strand unflinching. I like to make orbs of power with my PvP loadout, so I have on heavy-handed, firepower, and the Reaper mod. You can go ahead and pause if you want to read any of these more in depth, but essentially when we get a kill with our powered melee, our grenade, or a weapon after using our rift, we do get orbs of power. When we pick up those orbs of power, what are we going to get out of them? Well, first we're going to use our absolution, our innervation, and our orbs of restoration, so we get a bunch of ability energy back when we pick up those orbs of power. Last but not least, in our mods, we do have 2 bomber mods here. You can see these are going to give you around 20 to 25% of your grenade energy back every time you pop a rift. For our weapons, I am going to be using the Quicksilver Storm. Now the thing is, we just got a across the board range change for all of our weapons. So essentially they just brought the ranges of all these weapons in line. They changed how zoom values work and how the actual range stats affect these weapons. Everything is much different now. So seeing what auto rifles got, a lot of people were saying they were going to be pretty good in this current meta, and that's something I wanted to try out, and I can say that after using this Quicksilver Storm today, it's feeling pretty dang solid, and I had a good time with it. Besides that, I have on the Retro Futurist shotgun on the second part of the gameplay today, but for the most part, I was using the Retold Tail shotgun, one of my favorite in the entire game. You can see quick draw and snapshot sights over here, accurized rounds and smoothbore. It's going to give me 100 range on this bad boy, and it feels quite good. I do have on the other half Eager Edge Sword for our heavy plays, but I think I only get a few plays with that. For our Void 3.0 is pretty normal stuff. You can see here I have on Nova Bomb Vortex to shut down those wells and bubbles. I have on a Healing Rift, Blink because we could be a little floaty freak, but I prefer to be blinking around. Over here we have Pocket Singularity. You know, we have tons of good choices down here when it comes to our melee, but out of all these great choices, I just usually go for Pocket Singularity because it's too good to pass up, right? Now over here we have Scatter Grenades. If you want to use a different grenade, I recommend you would go for an Axiom Bolt. There's a lot of good angles and corners on this map where you can use Axiom Bolts to get them on top of your enemies without even having to peek them. So I would recommend you use those, but if you want to use something that'll kill your enemies much more outright, then use Scatter Grenades. When you do get a kill with those Scatter Grenades, or with your melee, or with Clarence, you'll proc your Feed the Void. Feed the Void gives you Devour, so whenever you do defeat an enemy, you do get full heal on your health. I mean, that's pretty evident right there. That's what heal means. After that, you get some grenade energy back, so we love to see that. After that, you have Child of the Old Gods, or as we call him on my channel, Clarence. Clarence is my son from the Void. He comes in, he goes out. He sucks on the enemy's toes harder than a $5 hooker. When he does that, he's going to give you grenade and melee energy back. We love to see it. As well as when you defeat a target that is getting sucked by Clarence, you get classic ability energy back, so good stuff right there. For our fragments is the usual stuff that I love to run. My favorite fragment in the game, Echo of Dilation. That says while you're crouched, you sneak faster and gain enhanced radar resolution, so we can pick apart where our enemies are and know how to aggress upon them. After that, we have Echo of Persistence. That's going to let the original proc of our Devour go from 10 seconds to a 15-second Devour proc. After that, we do have on Echo of Expulsion, so when we get a kill with a Void ability, it's going to explode a secondary time, which will take out enemies that are holding hands. Last but not least, we have Echo Vigilance, so when we do defeat a target while our shields are depleted, we get a Void Overshield, which can help us get out of some tricky situations or even take out a second enemy with that nice boost of health. Here is the drip in case you are interested. I gotta say, these new Trials of Osiris armor sets are looking very nice, and this robe especially I like quite a bit. Tell me your thoughts on it though. If you have any questions about today's build, please feel free to leave those in the comment section or join the Blinkville Discord server where you can make tons of Blink friends for yourself. I'm going to have that linked in the top right and in the description. If you want to join my channel membership at any point today and really support the channel that one extra mile further, I'd really appreciate that. Just click the join button below this video and you can check that out. Otherwise, if you want to leave me a like or subscribe, at the very least, I'd very much appreciate that. And if you just want to leave the video a view and that's all, I really appreciate that just as much as anything else. Now, all that said, I think we're ready to go ahead and get into today's gameplay. So without further ado, let's go ahead and blink on into it. So I actually had not played this new season at all, except for the little starter mission that they made me do until this Trials match. This is my first match of the day, my first round of the day, and I didn't know how it was going to go, but luckily you're going to see it ended up going pretty well. I wanted to try the new Astrocyte, right? I wanted to really see how this was feeling, and you can see how I'm going to start talking about it right now, just off the play that you saw right there. The thing that I started noticing very quickly is, you see that guy was volatile, right? Because how it works is wherever you start blinking, you're going to get a little aura around you, right? It seems like it is a bubble, so it goes down and it goes above you, it goes all around you. So you get a sphere around you of volatile. Anybody inside of that sphere is going to become volatile. Pretty cool. I mean, it's nice, and we'll talk about how I feel about volatile very soon here because it's not the best, but I do see its use cases. So the thing that I've noticed is when you blink into an engagement, especially if you wanted to pair this with something like blink shotgunning, which is my favorite way to play with blink, well, you're going to blink into an enemy and you're not even going to make them volatile 95% of the time because the volatile isn't following you all the way to the end of your blink. On top of that, even if it did make enemies volatile where you come out of your blink, it wouldn't be good because you never want to blink directly on top of an enemy. Take this for example. I back up a little bit because this kid's throwing stuff at me. I'm just blinking around trying to avoid his actual fire in case they push up. They come around the corner here. I see on them my radar right here that they're right down there. This guy rushes in. I take him out. Very good. And I say, maybe I want to blink on the last guy. No, we take him out. I have some plays around there, so I'm going to try to use those as an example when I get to them. But the point is, you don't have the volatile, and even if you did at the end of your blink, it wouldn't be that useful. Because if you blink directly on top of somebody, like we're talking within a meter of them, you're going to get your absolute pussy eaten like a Chinese-style family buffet. You see right here, I just made both of those enemies volatile. Did it matter? Yes and no. So here's the thing that I realized with volatile. I gave my thoughts on how I thought this buff was going to go last season on the last weekend, and you can go watch that video next if you want to. And what I was saying essentially was, I don't think it's really going to matter, because by the time you can proc volatile on somebody, and it actually does the void explosion, does the damage, they're already dead. However, what I forgot about volatile is one big thing, which is, once the enemy with volatile on them dies, they still do the explosion. An any seeing enemies, yeah, I'm acting like frickin' Nemo out here. No, any enemies that are around that first enemy that dies while they had the volatile on them, right? They're going to take damage, not much damage, mind you, within their about a meter of the enemy that dies with the volatile on them. They're going to take around 50 to 60 damage, I believe it is. That happens in a few clips here. I'll point them out to you when I see them. But that's my point, is the volatile doesn't do all that much. Sure, it does that little bit of damage, but you're never going to proc it on an enemy before they die, unless the volatile proc stays on them for a long time. If you can keep the volatile debuff on them for a long time, then you could actually use it by doing little burst fire at them until finally it procs. But even then, it's not going to kill them for the most part, unless you have them low enough to where the actual volatile proccing goes ahead and kills them. So that's my problem with it. Now, I think the volatile matters more in something like sixes, because it has more of a chance from all your teammates fire on your enemies, right? Especially if they're in a bunch of well of radiances, whatever, then the volatile could do something. But to me, I just don't think the volatile is that great. It's more of a gimmick than anything. And we're Destiny players, you know, we like a gimmick. Cool, you know, there's the gimmick for you, but just take into account that the actual volatile part of this buff doesn't really matter. And this is why, oh yeah, Cloud Strike is still balanced, by the way. There you go. hit 1 snipe, get 3 kills, fun. This is why, before this buff came out, I predicted it wouldn't really matter too much, especially in 3s. And after using it, I can say that definitely is the case. It's cool, and anytime there is actual eyes and attention paid to Blink, I love that. You know, it makes me feel like our little portion of the community is actually seen. And that's awesome. That's an awesome feeling. However, it's just not that much of a buff. And instead of doing this, what I would have wanted to see is an actual Astrocyte variant made for Blink Hunter, because we still don't have that, by the way, because, I don't know, just screw Blink Hunter, basically. But it's just kind of lackluster, in my opinion. So let's go ahead and talk about the other part of our Astrocyte Burst buff. As we all know, the other part to our Astrocyte Burst buff is going to be the fact that our Dark Blinks, which is the shift ability you have on your Nova Warp, it's not going to cost any energy anymore. And I think that's great. Although, in my personal opinion, I think that Dark Blink should never cost any energy. If you haven't used Nova Warp in a while, it's in a woeful place to the most part. It has the lowest damage reduction, tied with a few other roaming supers, but out of the roaming supers, it has the lowest percentage damage reduction out of any roaming supers. The Dark Blink takes up too much energy to where you could actually feasibly use it, and the ranges on the uncharged and the charged versions are actually ridiculous. Not to mention the damage fall off on the charged and uncharged blast are actually insane when you look at the numbers. Now, on top of all that, the biggest thing holding Nova Warp back is what a lot of roaming supers have as a problem, which is you can't really get them reliably. Oh, right here. Go and rewind back. Do you see this guy in front of me? He's volatile. He was sitting under me like some dude in World War II hiding in a bunker, right? And I was the Germans flying overhead, and I absolutely Red Baron bombed his ass. So what happened is, my sphere of influence from my volatile on my Astrocyte Burst went through the floor, and it made him volatile. I thought that was so nifty, and I just had to point that out to you guys. So if you want to see that again, go ahead, rewind, watch that play again. You will see the actual hit marker registration in the middle of my screen, and that's because my volatile sphere actually went all the way through the floor and made that guy volatile, and I thought that was really actually cool to see. So remember that it is an actual sphere, and it goes down and below you as well, so very cool stuff right there. Now, as we were saying before with the Dark Blink and just Nova Warp in general, you don't get them in 3s because it takes way too long to actually build those up. Even if you're running 100 intellect and you're slaying out pretty well, there's a lot of times where you still might not even get a roaming super. I happen to run 6 intellect most of the time. Fuck that guy, bagged him, he smells like shit. And the reason for that is because I like to have 100 recuv and I like to have 100 discipline. If I'm going to put points into my intellect, which is something I've been thinking about more lately, then I'm still not going to run a roaming super. I'd rather just run a single pop super and see if I can get it earlier on in the game so I can actually clap a game up earlier and not have to worry about it, or at least have it to where I can match getting the other enemy supers such as a Will of Radiance or a Bubble. But even there, it doesn't work all the time. You can see we're using Clarence right there in that play, by the way, watching the ticks of damage coming off of my enemy from Clarence, which helps me easily track them through the wall and know exactly where they're going to be pushing out of, and then I can push aggressively upon them. So, now that I've said everything about the actual buffs and how they're feeling and how they're actually working with Astrocyte Burst, I guess I can give you my final verdict of how right now I actually feel about the Astrocyte Burst buff. And to put it very simply for you, in the reading comprehension of an actual kindergartner, it's fine. It's cool. It's there, you know? Kind of like that friend you made in math class because you wanted to cheat off of his homework. It's just there. You're not super hyped about it, but it's there, you know? And that's just what this buff is. It's some nifty new features, and it just will exist. But in 3v3 competitive trials type game modes, which is what I primarily play, I just don't think it matters that much. I don't think it has the oomph that I want it to have. And again, when it comes to Blink Warlock, this isn't what I wanted to see. When it comes to Blink in general, this isn't what I wanted to see. We can sit here all day and say that we appreciate that Blink gets any changes at all, but the fact of the matter is, it just deserves more. It deserves any kind of respect from Bungie to actually say, hey, this exists in the game and we should treat it as such. We should treat the people who play it with any modicum of respect to where we actually give bug fixes, good buffs, and quality of life changes to the thing that they love to use on the daily. But we don't get that. There are several major bugs with Blink, the biggest one being the slide glitch. If you use all your blinks and then you try to slide, you cannot. You will just not be able to slide. You don't even get dead slid, you just can't slide. You will just crouch. It's ridiculous. It has been in the game for who knows how long, and it does not get fixed or addressed in the slightest because they do not care. Can I actually tell myself that I believe that not a singular person at Bungie who has the ability to go ahead and fix a bug like that is unaware of it? No, I cannot convince myself that that is the case, because to me, that seems absolutely insane. That seems absolutely, and excuse my French on this one, barnacles, Batman, because there's no way, really cool blink right here by the way to get behind these guys, turn them volatile, kill the first guy, it procs volatile, which does 57 damage to the other guy, and that's what I was telling you earlier, that's the only use case where the volatile is actually semi-useful in 3v3s and probably PvP in general, so now you know that. But to make myself think that they know all these disgusting little things about Blink don't exist, I can't do that to myself, because they know bugs exist and they just simply don't have the wherewithal or the care to fix them. On top of that, it's like I talked about earlier, where Blink Hunter still doesn't have its own Blink exotic. Why? Why would you come into this game, give Blink to Arc Hunter, and then for seasons and seasons in a row that we've had now, never care to address it, fix it, buff it, give it quality of life changes, and on top of everything, give it its own exotic to where it can actually function to the level that Blink Warlock Blink can. Because they don't care. They don't have the care and the desire to make it good enough. And that is what frustrates me. Because we get little changes like this, and we get little quote-unquote buffs like this, and it's fun, but it's just too little, too late. These are changes that should have just been applied to base Blink, that should have just been applied to base Nova Warp, and there's so much that should be applied to base Hunter Blink and Hunter in general that they just don't care to do, and it's actually just incredibly frustrating for me, and I'm sure a lot of you as well. But please, go ahead in the comments. I'd love to hear your respectful opinions on how you are liking the actual Astrocyte burst changes, how you're liking Blink right now, and do you agree that a lot of this is too little too late, and that you would love to see more of an actual eye from Bungie on Blink in general so that we can be happier with the playstyle that we used on the daily. Now, that being said, this is going to go into the lighthouse here really quickly. Hey, shout out to one of my viewers, Chili. This guy always gives me these nice little DMs when I get on the game, and he goes, hey, good luck in your trials matches. And I say, you know what, thank you, pal. And guess what, my first card on was an absolute flawless banger, so you gotta respect the Chili for sending me that good luck. I know that's what did it, baby. Did I play well? Yeah, I played alright, but I think that's what really did it. I think this is a new shader here, or maybe it's just an old shader that I just got. I don't know, I don't recognize that symbol for the shader, but I could be wrong. But either way, it looks pretty cool. Like the glow on the robes and stuff looks pretty cool, so I wanted to show that off to you guys right there. And then I can show you the Immortal rolls that I got, because this weekend is Immortal Adept, and you're probably like, no, did he just dismantle an Adept? Freaking Messenger? Yeah, that's not my god roll. I have a god roll in my vault, so don't worry about that. And here's the Adept Immortal that I got, in case you're like, ooh, what kind of loot did you get? There you go, right there. So, there, I'm gonna probably dismantle that or infuse it into something. Anyways, that's it for today. Watch out for my Blink Hunter build coming out tomorrow with the new Knucklehead radar, and I will see you guys then. That's it for me today, though, so as always, have a great day, Guardians.